I'll tell you why in a moment. But really, I'm so enthusiastic about everything that's happening. I have so much joy, so much gratitude, so much appreciation for actually what is our world. I mean, there's a lot of change going on right now. And if we're caught up in the human experience too much, then we'll have the experience simply of what it means to be human. But we recognize from the beginning, and maybe this moment is your new beginning, that you have never been simply human. You could never truly be simply human unless you just allowed yourself to be that. That is a gift you have to give away. You have to give away your authority. You have to give away your power. You have to give away the truth of who and what you are in order to simply be human. And so some of you may be wondering, well, if I'm not human, what am I? You're the eternal in expression. You are divine beauty. You are divine brilliance. You are how specifically and with precision, creation, God, Spirit, love itself decided to express. And so some of that can be somewhat challenging to navigate because we are its expression. So where do we fall in it? Well, a lot of times we're not really thinking about what's going on in how we move through it to begin with. And so our topic today that I'm speaking to is hack, hijack, and heal. And so I'm going to get to all of that. And my way into that is, I wonder how you decided, or if you ever remember deciding what pretty is. Do you remember how you figured out the difference between something you would consider pretty and something that you would consider something else? Do you remember when you decided, when you, for yourself, decided what tastes good and what doesn't? If you have children, you'll notice that somewhere along the line, maybe at like 8 seconds, they decided that something was going to go away and something was going to go another way, and you as a parent weren't exactly sure how this creature decided that it was going to eat broccoli or wasn't going to eat squash. Or whenever you did this and stirred it up and fed it to them, that just wasn't what's going to work on that child's palate. Their reaction to it was what they knew. And so we go through this world that we live in, and there are all kinds of things that are going on, including the fly flying around my head. And there are all sorts of experiences, right? We are dealing with our relationships with people. And so how we deal with our relationships with people has everything to do with how we see the people. But what I'm realizing every day more and more and more is a lot of times we don't see each other. A lot of times we see our ideas about each other. Sometimes we see our thoughts about each other. But very rarely do we actually see each other unless we do it intentionally. My friend's back. Flying over my shoulder. I got guests. And so as we move through and navigate the world, so much of what's going on has to do with our perceptions, has to do with our awarenesses. What do you see? How do you see? What do you use to see? When I was here last time, I talked about a very basic way that I try to introduce teachings to new clients and students, which is, it's very important for you to first become aware that you are not many of the things that we have used to define ourselves. When you're born into this world, you did not identify yourself as black, white, gay, straight, German, French, Italian. You did not identify yourself as trans. You didn't identify yourself as free or a slave. When you came into this world, you were just a being. You were an eternal spiritual being that had came into this world. And the first thing that you start to do is you develop your body. You start working the physical nature because you don't have awareness yet developed because your brain is still in that process of developing. And so the next phase is the intellect that gets developed. You develop your body, you can stand up on your own, and you can stumble around, but now you're starting to think and you're starting to realize that if I go left, I do this. You start seeing. You ever realize when a child starts knowing how to make the parent respond? They start having an ability to get you to do something as the parent, or if you're babysitting, they know to throw something over there, and you'll be like, no, and then they'll be like, ha ha ha, got them. Just that fast, they figured out a way to get you to move to the left or move to the right. They're developing their awareness. They can see comparison. And if you do any sort of early childhood education, you see there are these different stages where when you were playing with a kid and you put something under a cup and they thought it disappeared, but then you take the cup away again, they're like, oh. But then there's like spatial recognition. It's really under the cup and you're not fooling me anymore. So that joke doesn't work on the kids anymore. And so one of the things that I continue to share is that much of what we see and know is programming. So much of how we view the world is programming. Whether it's television, whether it's news, whether it's social media. Those of you that connect or communicate with me on social media know that I've taken somewhat of a break from social media. I'll dip in and out, but I'm not using that platform right now because I'm spending more time in actual physical connection with people. And I am not anti-social media by any way, but I'm also having an awareness that there are other things that I want more of. So I'm spending more time actually intentionally connecting with people, spending time with friends or making phone calls and things like that. And so what I've become aware of over these few weeks for myself is how many of the things and the people that I would have normally connected with that I didn't connect with because of social media, and it gave me opportunities. And I started to think about all of the ways that we are systemically programmed. And so we think about the news and the media. They're constantly telling us about what's going on in the world. And if you've ever traveled outside of the country, the rest of the world is so different than America. Whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in Europe, whether you are in South America, whether you're in Africa, the rest of the world is nothing like I was exposed to through the classes that I was taught. It was nothing like I was exposed to through the news that I've been given, the stories that they tell me about Libya or Iran or Egypt. It's just not that way. So what was happening all that time? I was getting information from sources, and those sources were actively programming me because I didn't have a means with which to question. I didn't even have an idea that I needed to question. I laugh because one of the thoughts that I had this week was really clear. At what point did I decide that I did not assume that what people told me was the truth? Like, where on my journey did I become more skeptical than I did in assuming generously that anything you say to me is going to be the truth? And then, more importantly, I realized I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live in a world, I don't want to live through this world. I don't want my life to be one through which I am more likely to be skeptical about what you tell me than I am assuming of the truth. The position that places me in is of mistrust, doubt, fear, unbelief. That carries over into my spiritual practice and life because I am not trusting even my own self. Now, I can deal with the falsities, the falsehoods, the lies, the illusions that are presented to me, but I don't have to deal with them from the first place of critic. I don't have to look at my day and look in the world and look for the person that's lying to me. I don't have to look for that. I can look for the person that's loving me. And I can decide that even the person that's lying to me loves me, but they just haven't figured it out yet. And I can invite myself to hold them in that no matter what. And no matter what a person has done, I don't ever have to treat them based on that. But it takes some effort to do that.
Come on, Dave.
It takes a lot. He's going to be in this sermon. He don't even know it yet. I already got you, brother. Come on.
I'm ready, baby. I'm ready.
Look. So the reality is, at some point, you have to hack your programming. Makes sense, doesn't it? I thought so too. I mean, I had no idea where this topic was going when I first got it, but then as I was with it, I just was this clear realization that there is so much programming going on. We have some young people in the room, and they're at this crucial stage where somehow at some point, the information that our kids are getting is telling them that they're not beautiful, that they're not worthy, that they're not capable, that them being who they are is not enough. Sometimes it's coming from the parents. Not because the parents don't love or like or think their children is beautiful, but the parents haven't even had their own programming. So the parents are simply showing them by how they talk about their neighbors, how they talk about their aunts and uncles and cousins, the stories that they tell, how they spend time with family or don't spend time with family, and then the children are like, how come we never see our relatives? Man, if I go into there right now. No, the kids will ask the right question. And the kids will reveal your programming over and over and over again because they don't have it. So they are constantly questioning it. But we, at some point, we're taught that a child has a place. But we figured it wrong. The child's place is our most brilliant teacher. The child's place is the most brilliant healer. We're going to get to that. The child's place with all the social unrest, so to speak, and all unrest means is something's happening, that there's some movement. That's all unrest really is. When things are not the status quo, when it's not mediocrity, when it's not a stagnant pool of water that's breeding something that doesn't nurture and we can't even drink from. Yeah. So the programming must be hacked. So if you look up the word hack, you get a lot of different definitions and you get a lot of words that reveal a lot that can be taken on with your programming. But the very simplest thing that we want to do is we want to hack our own thoughts, our own ideas about life, and we want to realize it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like the perfect way and so precise and so clean. It can be inelegant. It can be what provides and does the job, and that's enough. Like, in other words, if you're used to seeing this particular part of the neighborhood a particular way, and maybe we call it a ghetto. And if because we see this community as a ghetto, we have a particular definition of those people, we have a particular way of being with them, we have a particular reason to not go on that part of town. But instead of that, as soon as I notice it, I just stop. I don't beat myself up. I don't have to all of a sudden solve what's going on in that community. I don't have to judge myself and beat myself up. If I'm able simply to pause, I can create the space for transformation. I can create a space where there wasn't a space before. So many times, literally 6 hours ago, I was in Dallas. And yeah, that's part of that's the part where I said I couldn't believe that I was here right now. We'll get to that today. Literally 6 hours ago, I was in Dallas. And one of the drivers for my Lyft that I had, we were in this great conversation, and we were talking about the biggest reason things like racism and sexism and things of that happen is because people don't have relationships with people. You see, when there's crime going on in a particular neighborhood, but you don't live in that neighborhood, you're okay with it happening over there. It's very much the NIMBY syndrome, right? Not in my backyard. We're watching in Orange County, where you live, a serious homeless problem going on, but they can't figure out what to do with the people because people are more concerned with not having these people live in their neighborhoods or building the resources within their neighborhoods. In such an affluent region, we should be able to care for each other. Now, if you don't know people who have been through it, and I guarantee you most of us know somebody that was homeless at some point, either sleeping in their car or sleeping from couch to couch, then your enthusiasm and extension of compassion is going to be lacking naturally because you're choosing to simply live as a human being, and human beings don't naturally seek to improve the world. They only seek to preserve self. They simply rest in ego. Now, ego's not so bad. Ego's the thing, as many teachers will teach, that just taught us self-preservation. So when we see something that's dangerous, we can recognize it. But so many of the things that we've labeled as dangerous are not so. So many of the people we label as dangerous are not so. So as you go into your awareness, you must consciously decide, I want more. And so as you decide that you want more of what? If you want more peace in the world, you've got to have peace in your home. You've got to have peace with law enforcement. You've got to have peace with the schools. You've got to have peace with every human being that you come in contact with, whether you like the president or whether you don't, whether you like the people that voted for the president or you don't, whether you like Bashar Ali or you don't. You being able to connect with the world will care about what happens to the citizens of Syria. If you never meet a Syrian, if you care about people, you will care about people on the Gaza Strip and in Israel. You will care about people specifically. You cannot, as it is said, love humanity in general. You can only love humanity in particular. Everything else is just gas. And not the good smelling kind. It's just empty. It has no life and no value. So if you decide that you want more life, more joy, more peace, if you decide you don't like what's on the news, then you get to decide that you're going to extend yourself and do more in the world, bring more into the world, but it is an individual by individual thing. Creation decided human beings and this world would need oxygen. So it planted tree after tree, flower after flower, plant after plant, so that we could get oxygen. We all know that, right? But they all could have been the same. We could have just had all redwood trees. That'll work. We could have just had jungles everywhere on the planet. That would have worked. But creation, God decided specifically that we would be diverse. That we would have some of everything from everywhere. And somehow with all that America was doing and all that different countries were doing, planted some of everybody in this country. But here's the thing. You have to hack your own consciousness. And you're going to have to reprogram. But that's not going to be enough. You hear phrases like life hack, where it's other ways where you can make things easier. Biohack, where you take things and organic materials and you try to find better ways to eat healthier. I know Donovan knows all about biohacking. But here's the thing. It's not simply the hack that makes the difference. There's still, once you have hacked and you decided you're going to do it differently, there's still a controller, right? This is where Hijack comes in. Because it's not simply that the programming is going on, because if I program an airliner to fly a particular way, it's still only going to fly that way based upon the pilot. And so who is the pilot? I am. You are. We are the pilots. And the thing is, we don't always want to do it. I'm going to call my brother Donovan up here real quick because we're going to do something for real. I already knew this was coming. Come on up here, brother Donovan.
I'm scared.
Come on. You are, but you're ready. And so what Donovan, my relationship with him is beautiful, but what Donovan has always done, see, that's why if I turn, he might move. And I know better. But the whole thing with what Donovan does as a person who brings his gift to the world is he is constantly redefining how you do a thing. He is constantly, most of you guys are familiar with what he does, yes? So I will say that Donovan is a brilliant fitness professional that brings his consciousness, his spirit, to try to help us, non-fitness professionals, figure out how to move. And what I realized as I've lost a little weight, is less about the sculpting for me, and it's mostly about what he really teaches, which is how I want to live in my body. right? So if I were in an office and sitting at my desk and I was working really hard, Donovan would give me easily 8 things I could do sitting at my desk in my chair workouts, plug, or whatever it was. Even if it's just at my home on my floor, he could give me 8 things that I could do at home on my floor. But what Donovan gives me is not enough.
Right.
Right? He's just a physical expression. Right? What Donovan gives me is not enough if I do not hijack my mind.
Yes. Right.
So what does hijack my mind look like? I have to establish a greater intention. So no matter how many coaches you have, no matter how many teachers you have, no matter how many sermons you listen to, no matter how many times you talk about meditation, no matter how many times you read about a thing, until you do it, until you do it, action. Until you do it. There it is. Until you do it. Then that's nothing. Now, there are lots of books about prayer, lots of books about meditation, and none of them will help you to meditate or pray if you do not what? Meditate or pray. Look at the enthusiasm. Like, oh yeah, that's totally my thing. I read all of the yoga articles, and yet it's still like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Puppy. You know, it's not exactly the thing, right? So you have to actually hijack your mind. Because look, who you are right now does not want to be where you're going. Because who you are right now exists. When you decide to grow, evolve, and expand, this version of you dissolves. And because this ego is interested in self-preservation and awareness, every excuse you could possibly come up with to not do a thing is already working. You know, maybe you just wanted a popsicle today. Yep, the popsicle took me off the treadmill. I couldn't do it. The popsicle took over me. Or the cake, or the errands with the kids. Koya, a good friend of ours, has had me awake at 4 a.m. for the last month. Not because it's some transformational workout, but because she's a friend and we get along, and so we decided that we work out together a little bit. I'm still having to do more outside of that, but because I have developed the relationships with people like Donovan and Koya who are fitness professionals, their presence nurtures me. Right? And so if I set an intention, then Koya traveling last week and us not being able to work out helped me to still get up and still get my workouts in. And I know there are amazing programs with food and nutrition and everything else, but until I decide that I want it so much for myself that I will take all of those actions to bring it into existence, it doesn't matter. And that's the whole thing. The reason our world isn't better is because not enough of us have decided that we want a better world. Not enough of us have decided that we want more peace, that we want more joy, that we want more love. And that kind of sucks. But it doesn't as long as you're here. Because you're here to decide that I do want more love, so how can I be that way? Family's best. Like, I don't care what weight Donovan wants me to pick up. There's no better weight for working your consciousness and your family than deciding that no matter what, my aunt can't stop me from visiting her. I mean, she ain't got to let me in, but I'm going to call.
That's right.
You know, no matter what my parents have done or not done, whether it is significant traumatic abuse, does not require you to all of a sudden bridge that gap and be close to that parent again. But you don't have to be anti that person.
That's right.
The whole idea is, when I think about them now, when I think about somebody that I didn't like what they did or who they are or what our relationship was like, is it weighing on me?
Yeah. Yes.
Is it dropping me down into a lower vibration? I couldn't have done this a week ago. I ran up some steps the other day and I was at the top and I was like, well, I'm not breathing all right now. Woo! That's good. But the reality is, because you're doing these things, because you're making these relationships because you've decided that you want a world like that, you have to hijack your consciousness. And so we did a little bit of that in meditation today, right? We were aware of our presence, but most importantly when we're in meditation, it's just seeing the landscape. Can I see the irritation and there's no limit to the amount of ways you can meditate. But today what we did was we just realized ourselves as awareness. And so because we were awareness, we recognized that we were aware of everything. So that when you realize that you're aware of everything, everything doesn't move you. It doesn't hijack you. It doesn't tell you that you've had the worst meditation ever. That's impossible. Meditation and the fact that you are aware of it being disruptive and uncomfortable, that is powerful meditation practice. And here's the thing. The amount of time when we're meditating, that we're actually meditating, is probably that long. Everything else is the practice of meditation. When you get that, you can free yourself of so much of the judgment you give yourself, of so much of what's not possible and what you have decided is not for you. And this gets us to what healing really is. Healing is the realization that there is no separation, there is nothing missing, that there is not brokenness, that there is not an impossibility as your life. Now maybe I'm not going to dunk over Steph Curry tomorrow. But that's such a material world kind of thing for me to focus on. What? And that's not even saying that it's wrong. Well, we get a trampoline. I might know somebody that knows Steph Curry. We can work it out. But some of us have that as the ordinary things in our lives. So many of us are looking for partnership in terms of relationship that we don't realize that we're just not even nurturing friendships. One of the reasons why I've only been in Los Angeles since 7:30 this morning is because I came over from Dallas, and for about 38 hours I was in Dallas celebrating the union of two incredible people, Tiffany and Dalen. So we're just sending blessings to them. What was a 13-year friendship has now become a marriage. And they were never trying to date each other until they decided that this is a journey that they were willing to take. And it was very beautiful because the truth is they had full lives. And then they decided to have this other experience together. But if you see them both separately, at no point were they messing around and eliminating the possibility of what is possible, of good relationships, of exploration, of growth, of development and unfoldment. Both of these two individuals were doing that. If you as a person are looking for greater experiences in your finances and your resources, it's the same thing. You must address the limited ideas that you have with money. If you have any thought about giving money to another human being, you should look at that. Whether it's a charity, whether it's a donation to someone on the side of the road, whether it's a contribution to a political cause, whether it's a contribution of your taxes, you have to realize, is there any part of me that thinks that my wealth, my abundance, my plenitude, my prosperity is diminished because of how it expresses in my sharing, generosity, and giving? That's the part of you that needs to heal. If you see the world that way. So you have to reprogram your thoughts. The whole idea of that phrase that so many parents used to use, say, money doesn't grow on trees. And then kids say, who thought that in the first place? It's like, I know I'm your kid. And I'm not sure if you think I'm stupid, but I know you're not stupid enough to teach me that. Let's go that way. And so the reality becomes, how many limited things do we hold that are limiting our liberation and freedom and that are preventing us from healing? If you walk anywhere in this world and you don't feel comfortable, don't beat yourself up, don't judge yourself, just realize that that's an opportunity. If there's a particular place in the world that you see people from that country and you have a thought about them before you meet them, Whether it's empathy and sadness and sympathy because, you know, the Western world has been bombing your country for decades. Or if it's just simply because they're dressed in a formal, particular way. You have the opportunity to actually realize that you can't really meet that person yet. Like, no matter what you do, until you actually meet them, there is no connection. And so our world will never heal until the people like us who choose consciously